it was there that I started to realize again, I was a lot better at speaking with people than sat behind the terminals. So I started to get involved more with developer work, more with the project managers. Yeah, the crash, we got into the office and in very polite language, my boss at the time, Group DR, Phil Duran walked in, just said, if anybody makes a mistake today, you're fired.
So you finish university, you're happy with your grades, keep it moving? Not happy?
I wasn't happy, no, I wasn't happy. But yeah, you keep it moving.
So did you start applying for roles when you was in your final year, or did you take a break, go on holiday?
Oh my gosh, the milk round, that used to be prevalent back then. I think it still is now. Yeah, I was out there in the milk round with my CV, presenting to companies. But my track record wasn't as strong as the people that I was up against. So
even though you worked at Reuters?
I had experience, but grades, I mean, I truly believe the pivot for, well, the perception of experience over grades wasn't as strong now as it was then.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and also your runway of the school, your A-levels. I didn't know A-levels, I did a BTEC first, so that, even though it was prevalent at the time, it needed an exceptional amount of explaining to people, well, what's a BTEC, what's the first? Why didn't you do A-levels? Why is there a 2-year gap between this and, what did you get at GCSE? Oh, okay, great. So yeah, it was tough. It wasn't tough, it just didn't work.
Yeah.
But you had to go knock on the doors, you had to be out there. So the Arthur Andersons at the time and all the old school big consultancies that I tried to work for, the banks and stuff, it just wasn't happening.
So what happened next? What did you do?
I found a Oracle partner called PDG Consulting, based out in Reading. I went there for 2 years, and they had clients in the city. So then they placed me at Hermes Pension Management. They're massive. I think they're still there. They're a massive pension management fund. They managed, I don't know if they still do, BT's fund. Mm-hmm. So I was on client site for best part of 2 years.
In London, so you didn't have to go
in London, so I was
Reading.
in Tower Hill. So it was great. So I was living I was either in Ruislip or Ealing, one of the two, or West Ealing, one of the two. And that made such a difference. I was in Ealing, yeah, because I used to drive out from Ealing to Thatcham. I used to go to past, Thatcham, 50 miles exactly. Yeah, I think the car brought me home many a night. Yeah, I used to do that journey every day. Yeah, so again, another trial and tribulation. It's just...
So was that the springboard? Getting that on your CV, the 2 years of Oracle, being an Oracle DBA?
I think, yes, yeah. Well, experience in the city for certain people can't be matched by you just need that experience. So going to Hermes and being able to promote from that, I felt more confident. They then wanted to hire me, they couldn't because of contractual clauses. So then I even felt even better and boosted that, okay, I've proved myself here, I should keep going. And so then I started applying, and then on to Ernst & Young.
How long were you there for?
E&Y, 4 years.
What did you do there?
I was a database administrator, so programmer database administrator.
Was you working with external clients or internal?
Yeah, internal, external. All of the estate, when they had before they'd moved to, where are they now? They're at London Bridge now. They had a house, Beckett House, which was Waterloo, and then we moved to London Bridge. Yeah.
And were you working, was that travelling around the country, or was you
No,
Bristol City?
No, focus there. No, right there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Things at that time were remote was coming in. You could log on to most servers, and it's pretty easy.
So what happens after EY? So now you've got 6 years under your belt in the working world.
Yeah, it's true. Yes. Yeah, 6. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So what do you do now?
So I'm at EY. EY was amazing. Great employer. Again, you're as good as the boss that you're working for. And
explain that, because that's a really powerful thing to say.
It's the truth. It's the truth. I have worked in the same organisations under different teams and I value massively the cadence, atmosphere, expectation, accountability, trust that a good line manager can set as opposed to a crap one. Just do. Yeah, we'll get on to we'll get on to others, but I've worked in organizations where the bosses don't have a clue, there's no trust. They want you there, sat there, 9 till 6, regardless whether you're working or not, because they don't trust you.
Yeah.
I've got other bosses, I won't speak to them for 2 or 3 days because they know I deliver. When you have that autonomy and you have that trust, I've always worked harder. Always. As opposed to I'm clocking in, I'm clocking out. A lot of people, even now where we are post-pandemic, people come into the office, there's people craving for their employees to come back into the office. And I say, why? It's because they want to go back into the office. There's lots of obviously perks of being in, working together, solutionizing, atmosphere, productivity, but there's a lot of lack of trust from a lot of managers over their employees, which really needs to be dealt with. But for me, my ex-manager, Lee Lambard, I still hold him in such high esteem, absolute legend, just a great guy to work for, and learnt lots from him. So I was there for 4 years.
So you're still, and then in your mind, you're still wanting to be in Oracle DBA, or are you trying to think about other things to go into?
So this is the stage where I go from a permanent employee to being a contractor. So I was contracting at EY. So even though I was on a low...
What? Hold on one second. You were contracted for 4 years?
Okay, so I need to correct this. So I've contracted for about 18 years. The majority of my spell, 16 years. The majority of my career I've contracted.
I can't even say it. I can't even breathe.
Yeah, I know.
So you started perm at EY, then you flipped to a contract?
No, I went straight into contracting. Very low day rate.
It's a day rate. It's a day rate.
Especially
back then. No IR35.
It was so different. Oh gosh, it was so different back then. But yes, I went in and I contracted there for 4 years.
Okay, so the questions I have now have completely changed. Okay, so you're a consultant now. So are you now thinking, I just want to be more senior in the Oracle space, or are you now thinking you want to now diversify after EY?
No, I was really comfortable at EY. What happened? No, my contract came to an end. I'd done 4 years. They'd offered me permanent roles, but it wasn't for me. I could have stayed there a lot longer. I've still got colleagues that are still there, but no, it wasn't for me. So I knew my time was, I thought my time was up after 8 months, really. And then it's, could you renew? And they renew you for 6 months, then they renew you for a year, then they renew you for another year. And then they go, we've really got to get rid of you now. I'm like, yeah, fine. So worked great. And I understand, and majority of the contracts that have been long-term, I understand there's always a definite timeline of when you need to cut.
So where'd you go after EY then?
UBS, just
Oracle
down there.
DBA?
Oracle DBA, Oracle SQL Server RAC DBA, real application clusters, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so I joined UBS and I'm smiling because it was one of the best places I've ever worked in my life.
Why was it so good?
Oh, the
you're
people.
Obviously giving the best.
The people. I'm giving UBS props, but I'm not. I'm giving again the team, myself, Eddie, Rory, Scott Cooper. We had an office down there, and it was server and infrastructure estates, and I've never enjoyed going to work so much in my life. It was so much fun. We had our music in there. We had vibes in there. We worked 15 years before.
Wow.
But in a closed office, and we had fun. And Jerry Cassidy as well. Yeah, good guys, good people, smiling massively. I had a great time there. It was there that I started to realize again, I was a lot better at speaking with people than sat behind the terminals. So I started to get involved more with developer work, more with the project managers. This report's going to be late, and this is going to be late. I'll go and speak to the business, and it's fine. And there was always that, you're IT in the business. It was never one. Sadly, many companies, it was IT's a cost, as opposed to we're in this together. No, IT is a cost, so I started to be more vocal. I I did 2 stints there, 2 stints of 2 years. Between those 2 stints, I worked at JP Morgan. And then I went back to UBS because I was just so happy there. JP Morgan Cazenove, I should correct actually, yeah, which was Moorgate down there, the old Queen's Bank. And that was good. That was fun, but again, just different culture, different boss, more technical PM management there. So that was fun. And then if I think about it, I started to very quickly realize what was going on in the market. You know, the adverts for Oracle DBAs were getting less and less on, I'm trying to think, what was the website we used to use? Not Job Finder. There's a website there.
JobServe.
Is it JobServe? Could be JobServe. The blue one.
Yeah, blue one is JobServe.
JobServe, yeah. So the adverts for Oracle DBAs started to dry up. And then the competition was coming in. You know, a lot of things are being outsourced to India. A lot of the guys from India were coming over, cheaper.
And then did cloud kick in at this time?
Cloud is virtualization.
But in terms of cloud, as
Yeah,
in when it became a buzzword and people started saying,
Yeah.
oh, we're going to the cloud,
Yeah,
i.e.
which
we're
is-
outsourcing to
Yeah, which is virtualization. So old school virtualization rebranded as cloud.
Yeah.
I've been around the roundabout a few times. So the power of cloud was not there, and the security mechanism was not there. But yes, that was coming in. I mean, while lots of things could be outsourced to India, Hyderabad, and I was definitely part of that in other roles, for lots of people in the city, especially regulatory, a lot of things needed to stay in-house, either on-prem or off-prem in data sites over in Hayes, or they needed to have access to them, and there wasn't the trust of farming that out to an ex party.
And this is like 2010 now, right?
I'm thinking of my CV. 2007, 2008-ish. Yeah.
So this is quite financial crash time.
Oh gosh, that day. That day. Yeah. Thinking of poignant, because I can remember 7/7 as well as at Ernst & Young, because we all got locked in, and we couldn't leave, and I had to walk home. I walked home from Waterloo to Ealing, and then just thinking of poignant days. Yeah, the crash. We got into the office, and in very polite language, my boss at the time, Group DR, Phil Duran walked in, just said, if anybody makes a mistake today, you're fired. That's it. And delivered it with a lot more vigor than that.
Yeah.
And then we're just watching the news, and we're seeing Lehman's, and we're seeing people come over from Paris to start their jobs, and the people walking out with their boxers, and it's like, whoa. And that week, everybody was just 100% stability. We just had to ensure that everything was working, because obviously the banks were borrowing, and we had to ensure that we were in a position to operate at maximum capacity, because a lot of things were coming over to UBS, and then everyone started to close their books. That was amazing. Again, yeah, so I've been through so I've done 99, 7/7, obviously totally terrible. My housemate was on the Edgware Road tube.
Wow.
Yeah. Thankfully he's fine. Very good friend of mine. And 2008. Yeah.
So 2008, you're at UBS back?
I'm at UBS, in the war room. We used to call it the war room.
And then it's going well. So in terms of, so when we think about school, obviously working in factories, going to university, do you ever have anything like imposter syndrome, like when you're making now? Because obviously by this time your day rate must be up now.
Yeah, I'm good.
So how are you feeling about yourself? Are you like, do you even think about the stuff in the past, or you like, that's just an old life?
I think about it right now.
Really?
Yeah, it's I mean, I don't come from a background where, I won't say my parents definitely struggled. I had to, for the things I wanted, I provided for myself, which was right. You know, the entrepreneurial person in me wanted to do that. But there is a massive, I wouldn't say chip or there's fear, but there's just a knowing that if this doesn't work, where are you going to go back to?
There's no trust fund.
Oh, there's no trust fund. There's no trust fund. I'm lucky enough to have that conversation with my friends, and with a very small group of us, we are each other's trust fund. If each of us got into trouble, we can lean on each other. But no, not from my parents. From a financial perspective, from a love and support and culture perspective, of course.
Yeah.
The trust fund is oozing. And to be honest, I'm so much happier that I have that than what I have seen is, yeah, you're going to be a multimillionaire, but you are not cultured, you are not aware, you don't know how to conduct yourself, you don't know how to handle yourself, you don't know how to speak to people. So I feel hugely lucky and blessed to have come from a structure where hard work was the norm, and it's praised, and you can see the rewards from it. But yes, looking back at my career and looking back at when I failed at school, yeah, I won't go there again. Yeah, I could never go there again.
Yeah.
But I can never not forget, because it still pushes me forward today. Yeah.
Forward